First. India. Source, ChatGPT. The official name is the Republic of India, located in the South Asian subcontinent. India has a long history of civilization and is one of the 4 major ancient civilizations in the world. It gave birth to the ancient Indus Valley civilization. In the 6th century BC, Buddhism and Jainism were born here. India has experienced multiple dynasties in its history, including the Mughal Empire and British colonial rule. On August 15, 1947, India got rid of British colonial rule and became an independent country. Source, Wikipedia. The Republic of India, Roman, Bytrat Gargia, English, Republic of India, commonly known as India, Roman, Bytrat, English, India, is a country located on the South Asian subcontinent. It ranks 7th in the world by area and the 3rd largest in Asia. The country actually controls a territory of approximately 3.166 million square kilometers. India has the largest population in the world. As of December 2022, India has a population of nearly 1.417 billion. India is now the world's 5th largest economy in terms of gross domestic product. India is not a country of a single ethnicity and culture. There are many ethnic groups and races in its territory. The Hindustani ethnic group among Indians accounts for about half of the total population of India. Each ethnic group has its own spoken and written language. There are 22 official languages recognized by the constitution alone. There are so many languages, among which Hindi and English are both designated as official languages of the federal government, and the court ruled that India does not have a national language. English is very popular in India as a common language, especially in South India, where it has a higher status than Hindi. India is also a country with many religions and beliefs. It is known as the Museum of Religions. Buddhism and Hinduism among the world's major religions originated from ancient India, and most Indians believe in Hinduism. Islam is the 2nd largest religion in India with 100 million people. 80 million believers spread to the Indian subcontinent with the expansion of the Arab Empire in the 8th century AD. After the 10th century AD, most dynasty rulers in northern India believed in Islam, and the Mughal dynasty among them almost conquered the entire subcontinent. The 3 major religions of Christianity also have 30 million followers, which is very helpful for the exchanges between India and the Christian world. India is one of the countries recognized to possess nuclear weapons. India is also a member of numerous formal and informal multilateral international organizations, including the United Nations, the World Trade Organization, the British Association, the BRICS, the Quad, the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation and the Non-Aligned Movement. India is seen as one of the potential superpowers. India is the world's 3rd largest military spender, with its military budget reaching $76.6 billion in 2021. Some industries, mainly farming, agriculture, urban handicrafts, service industries and their supporting industries, have made relative progress. In addition to the rich national culture and northern terrain that make Indian tourism very popular, due to the time difference, a large number of English-speaking talents have also invested in the outsourcing industry, that is, foreign companies transfer customer consultation, telephone answering and other services to India. On the other hand, the cultural output of Bollywood movies is no less influential in the English-speaking world and even around the world than in the mainstream of the world. At the same time, India is also the production site of many off-patent drugs, providing reliable medical treatment at low prices. In recent years, the Indian government has also invested heavily in higher education in the country to facilitate scientific integration with international standards, such as autonomous space research, ecological research on the Indian peninsula, etc. India's most important trading partners are the United States, the European Union, the People's Republic of China, and the United Arab Emirates. Second. Indian Lunar Probe. Source, ChatGPT. India has made notable achievements in lunar exploration, especially through the efforts of the Indian Space Research Organisation, ISRO. The following are India's main lunar exploration missions. Chandrayaan-1. Launch date, October 22, 2008. Mission goal, survey the lunar surface and look for evidence of water. Achievement. Successfully launched and entered lunar orbit. The mission's biggest scientific achievement was the discovery of evidence of water molecules on the lunar surface. It carries scientific instruments from many countries, including NASA's Lunar Mineral Mapper, M3. Chandrayaan-2. Launch date, July 22, 2019. The mission consists of orbiter, lander, Vikram, and rover, Pragyan. Objective: to further study the topography and mineral composition of the Moon, especially the Antarctic region. Mission achievements: the orbiter successfully entered the lunar orbit and continued to operate, providing a large amount of lunar data. The lander attempted a soft landing at the lunar south pole, but lost contact during the landing process and failed to land successfully. Despite the failed landing, the orbiter continued to deliver scientific data. Chandrayaan-3. Planned launch date, 2023, delayed due to the epidemic. Mission goal: achieve a soft landing and deploy a lunar rover for scientific exploration. Mission composition, similar to Chandrayaan-2, but does not include an orbiter, only a lander and a lunar rover. Mission target: soft landing on the lunar surface. Deploy lunar rovers for on-site exploration and scientific experiments. Technological advancement: through these lunar exploration missions, ISRO has demonstrated its technological prowess in deep space exploration. International cooperation: scientific instruments from multiple countries are used in ISRO's missions, promoting international cooperation. Future exploration: these missions lay the foundation for India's future lunar and planetary exploration missions, enhancing the scientific profile of global space exploration. India's lunar exploration program demonstrates its ambition and capabilities in the field of space exploration, providing valuable information to the scientific community and inspiring the next generation of scientists and engineers. Source: Wikipedia. Chandrayaan-2 is a lunar probe developed by the Indian Space Research Organisation, ISRO. It is also India's second lunar probe after Chandrayaan-1. Chandrayaan-2 will be launched via the Geostationary Satellite Launch Vehicle Model 3. It includes a lander, a rover, and an orbiter, all developed by India. Chandrayaan-2 is expected to land in the high plain between the Manzini C crater and the Simplot N crater at a latitude of 70 degrees south. The rover will conduct chemical analysis on the lunar surface, and the information it obtains will be sent to Earth via the lander and orbiter. Launched in July 2019 and entered lunar orbit in August, landing failed. The orbiter, part of the mission with 8 science instruments, is still operational and is expected to continue its 7-year mission to study the Moon. Special: India's Chandrayaan-3 successfully soft lands on the Moon. On August 24, 2023, India's Chandrayaan-3 successfully landed on the south pole of the Moon in a soft landing, making India the 4th country capable of sending an unmanned probe to a soft landing on the Moon. Country/organization: Chandrayaan-3 mainly consists of 3 parts: the propulsion module, the lander, and the rover inside the lander. The propulsion module will take the entire spacecraft to the lunar orbit, and will automatically separate from the lander after a few days and continue to orbit the Moon. The lander will take the rover to orbit the Moon for a while and then begin to descend to the lunar surface. The spacecraft originally flew at an altitude of 30 km at a speed of 6,000 km per hour. After 15 minutes of reverse jet deceleration and self-correction balance, it finally landed steadily and vertically on the Moon. Chandrayaan-3 is also the first probe in human history to successfully soft land on the south pole of the Moon, and only a few days ago someone failed to attempt it. The owner of the problem is Russia's Luna 25. The last time Russia soft landed on the Moon was in 1976, before the Soviet Union even collapsed. Russia cooperated with India on the lunar exploration program in 2007, but the two sides terminated the cooperation in 2015. Russia instead independently developed Chun-25 and launched it this year, 2023. It wanted to soft land on the lunar south pole 5 days, 19th, before India's Chandrayaan-3 landed. However, the mission failed and turned into a hard landing, directly hitting the lunar soil. After India's cooperation with Russia was terminated, it changed to independently develop the next Chandrayaan-2 and the subsequent Chandrayaan-3, and finally achieved today's success. Some media believe that this may change the ranking of international space technology capabilities and may also affect future cooperation strategies. Now, the Chandrayaan-3 rover has turned on solar panels on the Moon, begun to study the ionosphere on the Moon and seismic activity on the lunar surface, and will even insert a probe into the land to measure the temperature. Figure 3. Let us look forward to the scientific results that this more than 10-day exploration plan can bring. Third. Indian religion. Source: ChatGPT. India is a country with diverse religious beliefs and a rich and colorful religious culture. It is the birthplace of many major religions in the world. Following are the major religions in India and their characteristics. Hinduism. Population ratio, about 80%. Features: Hinduism is one of the oldest religions in the world, rich in mythology and rituals. The main gods include Brahma, god of creation, Vishnu, god of protection, and Shiva, god of destruction. Classics: Vedas, Upanishads, Mahabharata, Ramayana, Bhagavad Gita, etc. Festivals: Diwali, Holi, Durga Puja, etc. Doctrine: believe in reincarnation and karma, advocate polytheistic beliefs and diverse religious practices. Islam. Population ratio, about 14%. Characteristics: most Muslims in India belong to the Sunni sect. Islam has had a profound influence on Indian history, including the founding of the Delhi Sultanate and the Mughal Empire. Classics: Quran. Holidays: Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha. Doctrine: believe in the only God, Allah, and observe the 5 pillars: faith, prayer, fasting, almsgiving and Hajj. Christianity. Population ratio, about 2.3%. Features: Christianity has a long history in India. Legend has it that Saint Thomas arrived in India in the 1st century AD. Mainly found in Kerala and northeastern regions. Classics, Bible. Holidays, Christmas, Easter. Doctrine, believe in Jesus Christ as the Savior and emphasize love and forgiveness. Sikhism. Population ratio, about 1.7%. Characteristics, originated in the Punjab region in the 15th century, founded by Guru Nanak, advocating monotheism and egalitarianism. Classic, Guru Granth Sahib. Festivals, Vaisakhi, Gurpurab. Doctrine, belief in an invisible God, emphasizing service and justice. Buddhism. Population ratio, less than 1%. Features, Buddhism originated in India in the 6th century BC and was founded by Sakyamuni Buddha. Although the number of believers in India is relatively small, it has a profound impact on history and culture. Classic, Tripitaka. Holiday, Vesak. Teachings, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, Anatta and Nirvana. Jainism. Population ratio, less than 1%. Features, originated in the 6th century BC and passed down by Mahavira. Emphasis on nonviolence and strict moral discipline. Classics, Agama Classics. Festivals, Paryashana, Mahavir Jayanti. Teachings, nonviolence, ahimsa, pluralism, anekantavada, non-possession, aparigraha. Other religions. Zoroastrianism, the main believers are Parsis, concentrated in Mumbai. Baha'i faith, there are important holy places in India, such as the Lotus Temple in Delhi. Judaism, small Jewish communities exist, mainly in Maharashtra and West Bengal. Source, Wikipedia. India is one of the countries most influenced by religion in the world, and the influence of religion penetrates into every part of its society and culture. Religion plays a central and decisive role in the life of this country and the vast majority of its people. India has diverse religions, with Hinduism being the main religion. Well-known religions originating in India include Sikhism, Buddhism, Jainism, etc. India is a very religious country with many religions. Almost all the religions in the world can be found in India, which is called the Museum of Religions. The largest religion is Hinduism, with about 79.8% of the population in India believing in Hinduism. Hinduism can be traced back to Brahmanism founded by the Aryans in the 16th century BC. Around the 8th century AD, Shankara absorbed some Buddhist and Jain teachings and developed into Hinduism. This religion combines many beliefs and is very complex. Hinduism divides people into 4 castes, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra. Brahmin has the highest status, and the social status of the other castes decreases in order. Each surname has its own moral laws and customs, and generally cannot intermarry with each other. In addition to these 4 castes, there is also a kind of people who are excluded from castes, untouchables, the so-called untouchables. Mahatma Gandhi called untouchables Harijan, meaning son of God. After India became independent, they were collectively called Dalits, meaning oppressed people. They have the lowest social status, are the most discriminated against, and seem to be excluded from society. Women under the Hindu caste system have a low status, support child marriage, and the plight of widows is miserable. The caste system divides Hindu society into several social groups. There are high and low distinctions between groups, which has had a very bad impact on Indian society. Although India has abolished the caste system and experienced economic modernization and the enactment of laws prohibiting discrimination and class structure, the influence of the caste system in Indian society is still important. Islam is the second largest religion in India. 14.2% of Indians believe in Islam, about 177 million people in 2011. Due to the rapid growth of India's population, India has surpassed Indonesia and become the world's largest religion. The country with the most Muslims. Islam spread to India with the expansion of the Arab Empire in the 8th century AD. After the 10th century AD, most of the dynasty rulers in northern India believed in Islam, especially the Mughal dynasty, which left India with there are quite a few Islamic buildings. Islam as a foreign religion and Hinduism, the main native religion, have led to a series of religious conflicts in India. Most of the converts are untouchables and conflict with Hindus on the issue of cow killing. The partition of India and Pakistan is also due to Hinduism and Islam. It was caused by religious conflicts, which led to the tragedy of religious vendettas during the partition of India and Pakistan. In modern times, deep contradictions remain between these two major sects in India. Christianity is the third largest religion in India, accounting for about 2.3% of the total population. It has more than 30 million believers, such as St. Thomas Christians, mainly located in the south and northeast. It also has a certain impact on Indian culture and social economy. Degree of influence. Minority religions such as Sikhism, Buddhism, and Jainism are all religions that originated in India and have a certain influence not only in India but also around the world. Zoroastrianism, Judaism, and Baha'i are also more influential religions, but their numbers are relatively small. Although religion has a great influence in India, there are also many people who have no religious beliefs, including atheism and agnosticism, which has been on the rise in India in recent years. Fourth. The country that landed on the moon. Source, Wenhui.com. Japan's small unmanned probe SLIM, known as the Moon Sniper, successfully landed on the lunar surface on the evening of Friday, January 19, 2024, Hong Kong time. Later, he became the fifth country in the world to complete the moon landing. SLIM was jointly developed by the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, JAXA, and Japanese toy company Takara Tomy. Agence France Presse reports that SLIM is equipped with a rolling detector that is slightly larger than a tennis ball. According to the pre-plan, SLIM landed in a designated crater on the moon to contact the moon's mantle. The probe narrowed the landing range to within 100 meters of the expected landing site, which is significantly narrower than the previous range of several kilometers. Therefore, it is regarded as a more accurate sniper mission. However, it will take a month for JAXA to confirm that SLIM is accurate. Land at the designated location. Tomokatsu Moroda, associate professor at the University of Tokyo, said that JAXA has accurately landed a probe on an asteroid, but the moon's gravity is greater and its gravitational pull on the probe is stronger. In addition, the lander only has one chance to land, and it has to land near a crater surrounded by rock debris, making the task quite challenging. Moroda said the probe's landing choice was to analyze nearby rocks and look for evidence about the origins of the moon and Earth. The probe also hopes to find possible traces of water resources on the moon and assist humans in establishing a space exploration base on the moon. Whether the moon can be developed commercially depends on whether there is water in the polar regions. Japan has failed in 2 consecutive attempts to land on the moon in the past. In 2022, the Japanese Hospitality lunar probe launched by the US Artemis 1 failed to land on the moon. In April last year, the Japanese private space exploration company iSpace's probe White Rabbit lost contact during the final stage of landing. The large-scale rocket H3 developed by JAXA in the hope of competing with commercial rockets such as space exploration company SpaceX also failed in its launch in March last year. Fifth. Yongjai District. Source, ChatGPT. The lunar night zone refers to the area on the moon's surface that is permanently in shadow, usually located in the polar regions of the moon. These areas are almost never exposed to the sun due to terrain shielding, and therefore maintain extremely low temperatures. These areas are considered possible locations for the existence of water ice and are of great significance to future lunar exploration and research. Here are more details about the moon's eternal night zone. Characteristics of Yongjai District. Extremely low temperatures. Due to being in the shadow for a long time, the temperature in the evernight zone is very low, usually between -150 degrees Celsius and -250 degrees Celsius. Potential water ice reserves. These cold regions are thought to potentially contain water ice, due to the ability of water molecules to remain stable at these extremely low temperatures for long periods of time. Topographical influence. The moon's permanent night regions are mainly located at the bottom of craters in the polar regions. The depth and location of these craters are such that they are almost never exposed to sunlight. Source, Wikipedia. Polar night, also known as eternal night, night day, and moon day, refers to the phenomenon in the polar regions of the Earth that the sun is below the horizon within a day. Polar nights only occur within the polar circles. If the sun is above the horizon during a day, it is called polar day, which also only occurs in the polar regions. Night here refers to the time period when the center of the sun is below the horizon. However, due to the refraction of sunlight by the atmosphere, the polar day is longer than the polar night and the range is slightly larger than the polar night. If the Arctic Circle is in polar night, the Antarctic Circle is in polar day, and vice versa. Planets or satellites with large axis inclination angles, rotation periods much smaller than orbital periods, and not in a tidally locked state also have polar nights, that is, the length of the night is longer than the rotation period. 6th. India population. Source, Wikipedia. India is the most populous country in the world, with a total population of more than 1.4 billion in 2021, accounting for 1/6 of the world's population. At the end of April 2023, India surpassed China to become the most populous country in the world. Indians speak many languages and have complex and diverse religions and customs. Among them, the largest number of people believe in Hinduism, accounting for about 80%. India's population is mainly concentrated in the Ganges River basin at the southern foot of the Himalayas in the north, especially in the Hindi belt in the north and the Ganges Delta in the east. Uttar Pradesh, India's most populous state, has a population of more than 200 million and is the most populous first-level administrative region in the world. The 6 states of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Rajasthan, and Madhya Pradesh account for approximately 40% of India's population. 7th. Most populous country. Source, ChatGPT. As of 2023, the most populous country in the world is India, with a population of approximately 1.43 billion, surpassing China's population of approximately 1.42 billion. This change marks India becoming the most populous country in the world. Here are some of the most populous countries in the world. India, about 1.43 billion. China, about 1.42 billion. United States, approximately 340 million. Indonesia, about 280 million. Pakistan, about 230 million. Nigeria, about 220 million. Brazil, about 210 million. Bangladesh, about 170 million. Russia, about 140 million. Mexico, about 130 million. Source, Wikipedia. By the end of 2020, the global population has exceeded 7.9 billion. The Northern Hemisphere has more land, and 90% of the world's population lives in the Northern Hemisphere. The global sex ratio of men to women is about 1.04, that is, for every 1.04 men to 1 woman, there are slightly more men than women. Approximately 17.8% of the world's population is under 15 years old, 65.3% is between 15 and 64 years old, and 13.5% is over 65 years old. The global average human life expectancy is 67.07 years. The female is 69 years old and the male is 65 years old. The global population literacy rate is 96.4%. The world's GDP in 2019 was $87.75 trillion US dollars. The per capita figure is $11,033 US dollars. Approximately 736 million people around the world live in extreme poverty, which means living on less than $1.25 a day. Approximately 462 million people are malnourished. In January 2021, there were approximately 4.66 billion internet users in the world, accounting for approximately 65.6% of the world's total population. The Han nationality is the most populous ethnic group in the world, accounting for 16% of the world's population. Followed by the Bangladeshi people, accounting for about 2.8% of the world's population. The most common native language in the world is Chinese, spoken by 16.47% of the world's population, followed by Spanish, 4.85%, followed by English, 4.83%, Arabic, 3.25%, and Hindi, 2.68%. The religion followed by the largest population in the world is Christianity, accounting for approximately 31.35% of the population, followed by Islam, accounting for 24.43%, and third, Buddhism, accounting for approximately 13.78%. In 2005, 16% of the world's population had no religious affiliation. Asia has long been the world's most populous continent. About 4.2 billion people currently live in Asia, accounting for more than 60% of the world's population. The two most populous countries in the world, China and India, account for 37% of the world's population. Africa is the second most populous continent in the world, with about 1 billion people, accounting for 15% of the world's population. Europe has 733 million people, accounting for 11% of the world's population. Latin America has about 600 million people, accounting for 9% of the world's population. North America, dominated by the United States and Canada, has 352 million people, accounting for 5% of the world's population. Oceania has the smallest population, with only about 35 million people, accounting for 0.5% of the world's population. Antarctica, located at the southernmost tip of the Earth, does not have any permanent population. Only a very small number of scientific researchers and expedition personnel who conduct scientific research there live in the Antarctic Scientific Research Station for a short period of time. 8th. Average age in India. Source, ChatGPT. As of 2023, the average age in India will be approximately 28 years. This relatively low average age reflects India's youthful demographics, with a larger proportion of the population being young. India has a huge young labor force, which has important potential and advantages for its economic development. At the same time, this also means that India needs to address challenges in providing education, employment, and health services to make full use of its demographic dividend. Source, China Times News Network. The average age of Indians in 2022 will be 28.7 years old, of which the population aged 15 to 64 will account for approximately 63.6%. India is confident that its young population will give it an edge in the global labor market. American economist Shruti Rajagopalan said that India will become the world's largest talent pool. Liu Zhongji, Secretary General of the Shanghai Institute of International Studies, said that in the current geopolitical context, global industrial and supply chains are gradually adjusting. 9th. Languages spoken in India. Source, Wikipedia. Indian languages are very complex. According to statistics in 2001, there are 1,396 identifiable mother tongues across India. After linguistic analysis, These 1,396 native languages can be combined into other languages. There are 29 languages spoken by more than 1 million people across India, and 121 languages spoken by more than 10,000 people. These languages mainly belong to two major language families, the Indo-Aryan branch of the Indo-European language family and Dravidian languages. Language family, in addition to some languages belonging to the Tibeto-Burman language family of the Sino-Tibetan language family and the Munda language family of the Austroasiatic language family, as well as some other isolated languages. India's current main official language is Hindi, and the second official language is English. The Indian constitution stipulates that the official language of the federation is Hindi using the Devanagari alphabet. However, there is no legal provision for an official national language. The 8th schedule of the Indian constitution lists 22 legally protected languages, and there are also 6 other officially recognized classical languages. 10th. Indian civilization. Source: ChatGPT. Indian civilization is one of the oldest and richest civilizations in the world, with profound historical and cultural influence. Indus Valley Civilization, Harappan Civilization. Time: approximately 3300 BC to 1700 BC. Location: mainly in present-day Pakistan and northwestern India. Features: highly developed urban planning, advanced drainage systems, building technology, and handicraft production. Important cities: Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Economy: agriculture, trade, handicrafts. Source: Wikipedia. The Indus Valley Civilization, IVC, also known as the Harappa Civilization, Harappa, and the Indus Valley Civilization, English, Indus Valley Civilization, is an ancient civilization that flourished in the Bronze Age of South Asia from about 3300 BC to 1300 BC. Between 2600 BC and 1900 BC. Because it originated in the Indus and Saraswati river basins, it is sometimes called the Indo-Satan civilization of ancient India, one of the cradle of civilization. Because the ancient Indus civilization flourished in the basin along the Indus River, although it is called ancient Indian civilization, geographically it mainly includes the entire length of today's Pakistan. However, part of the monsoon seasonal rivers in northwest India and eastern Pakistan also included. The Indus Valley civilization is best known for its unique urban planning, fired brick houses, water supply systems, clusters of large non-residential buildings, and advanced craft manufacturing and metallurgy, copper, bronze, lead, tin. It is very likely that Mohenjo-daro and Harappa at one time grew to accommodate 30,000 to 60,000 inhabitants on their own, while the entire civilization may have contained between 1 and 5 million people at its peak. The increasingly serious Holocene aridification in the 3rd century BC led to soil degradation in the Indus Valley. This first accelerated the urbanization of the civilization's population, but ultimately the reduced monsoon precipitation put the Indus Valley civilization in trouble, and its population had to move towards migrate to the southeast and south areas. 11th. Indus Valley Civilization. Source: ChatGPT. Indus Valley Civilization, also known as Harappan Civilization, is an ancient civilization in the ancient Indian subcontinent and one of the oldest civilizations in the world. Here are some key facts about the Gangetic civilization. Time: about 3300 BC to about 1300 BC. Location: mainly distributed in the Ganges Plain area of present-day Pakistan and northwest India, including important sites such as Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. The ruins of the Gangetic civilization were first discovered in the late 19th century and early 20th century, the most famous of which are the ruins of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. In the 1920s, archaeologist John Marshall discovered a series of important artifacts at Harappa that made the Gangetic civilization known. This ancient civilization was originally named the Harappan civilization because the earliest discoveries were in the Harappan region. Later, archaeologists discovered more urban ruins, so they were collectively called the Gangetic civilization to cover a wider area. The Ganges civilization is one of the important milestones in the development of human civilization. Its highly developed urban planning, advanced craftsmanship, and rich cultural heritage have had a profound impact on later generations of Indian culture and civilization. 12th. Mohenjo-daro. Source: ChatGPT. Mohenjo-daro is one of the most important cities of the Indus Valley civilization. It is located in today's Pakistan and is one of the oldest cities in the ancient Indian subcontinent. Mohenjo-daro is one of the oldest cities in the world. Its advanced urban planning, architectural engineering, and craftsmanship reflect the high level of development of ancient civilizations on the ancient Indian subcontinent. Although its decline remains a mystery, the discovery of its ruins provides important clues to our understanding of the development and evolution of ancient Indian civilization. Source: Wikipedia. Mohenjo-daro, 2600 BC, 1800 BC, also translated as Mohenjo-daro or Mohenjo-daro, also known as the Mound of the Dead, is the site of the Indus River. An important city of the Basin civilization, it was built around 2600 BC and is located in the Sindh province of present-day Pakistan. Mohenjo-daro is a major early ancient city in the history of human civilization, equivalent to the metropolis of the ancient Indus Valley civilization. Other ancient civilizations during this period include the ancient Egyptian, Mesopotamian, and Cretan civilizations. Scholars mostly believe that it was an urban civilization created by the Dravidians of ancient India before the invasion of the Aryans. The archaeological site of Mohenjo-daro is listed as a World Heritage Site, and is known as a representative of ancient Indian civilization along with the Harappan civilization. Experts are currently worried that this relic will eventually disappear from the world due to weathering and improper protection. 13th. Dravidians. Source: ChatGPT. The Dravidians refer to the inhabitants of the ancient civilization who lived in Mohenjo-daro. Mohenjo-daro is one of the most important cities of the Gangetic civilization, Indus Valley civilization, located in today's Pakistan. The Dravidians were the inhabitants found in the ruins of this ancient city and lived between about 2600 BC and 1900 BC. The Dravidians used a writing system called Harappan script, which has not yet been fully deciphered. Source: Wikipedia. The Dravidians, also translated as Dravidian peoples, English, Dravidian peoples, are an ethnic group in India. The common denominator is that their mother tongue is the Dravidian language, with a population of more than 200 million. Dravidians are mostly distributed in southern India, accounting for about 25% of the Indian population. The rest are distributed in central India, eastern India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, Pakistan, and southeastern Iran. The word Dravidian in Chinese has appeared in the Tang dynasty's records of the western regions of the Tang dynasty, which refers to a country in South India where the monk Xuanzang once arrived. The word Dravidian in English was first coined by Robert Caldwell in his book Comparative Dravidian Grammar, borrowing the word Dravida from Sanskrit, which was used to refer to Sanskrit documents in the 7th century AD. Tamil language of South India. There are many academic opinions on the origin of the Sanskrit word Dravida, and these theories generally revolve around the relationship between the two words Tami and Dravya. Linguists such as Xavier Beer believe that the origin relationship between the two is Tami-Dravya, while others believe that they follow the development direction of Dravida Dramila Tamiza or Tamil. The word Dravida may also come from the Sanskrit Drava, which means water or ocean, and Dravidian refers to the Indians who live by the sea, that is, the residents of South India who live in the area surrounded by the sea on three sides. Dravidian linguist Bhadrarayu Krishnamurti once pointed out, Dravya and Dramila are first used to refer to a nation, and secondly to a country. In Sinhala literature before the Christian era, the prefixes Damia and Damla refer to Tamil merchants. Early Buddhist and Jain texts use the prefix Damia to refer to the inhabitants of South India, mainly Tamils, Damilaraha, a non-Aryan country in South India, Dramia, and Dravya. This variant refers to a country in South India. Damia seems to have appeared earlier than Dravya, and the latter may be the Sanskrit form of the former. 14th. Aryans. Source: ChatGPT. The Aryans were an ancient Indo-European people group who played an important role in the social, cultural, and linguistic development of the ancient Indian subcontinent. The Aryans are a branch of the Indo-European language family believed to have originated in Central Asia. They are a branch of the Indo-European population that probably originated in the steppe regions of Europe like other Indo-Europeans. Around 2000 BC, the Aryans may have begun to migrate southward and entered the ancient Indian subcontinent, meeting and communicating with the local indigenous people. The arrival of the Aryans likely led to the formation and development of the caste system in India. They are considered the ancestors of the highest caste in the caste system, Brahmins. The Aryan language became the basis of ancient Sanskrit, Vedic Sanskrit, which became the religious and literary language of ancient India and an official language of India. The religious beliefs of the Aryans merged with those of the local indigenous people to form an early form of Hinduism. Although the history and migration process of the Aryans remains much debated, their influence on the culture and social structure of ancient India is undeniable. Their arrival and exchanges with local cultures formed the basis of ancient Indian multiculturalism, with far-reaching influence that continues to this day. Source: Wikipedia. Aryan generally refers to an ethnic group in northwest India. In today's academic circles, the term in most cases refers to Indo-Iranians, that is, people who speak Indo-Iranian languages. Now Aryan is almost exclusively used in the linguistic term Indo-Aryan among the branches. Aryans are the people who speak the language of this branch, mainly referring to the Indo-Aryans. Aryans were originally the name given to the Indo-Iranians and are also the etymology of the word Iran. In Sanskrit scriptures, this word is used to refer to the noble class. Indo-Aryan languages are a branch of the Indo-European language family. According to current archaeological research and academic hypotheses, the Indo-Aryan branch may have originated from the Sintashta culture in western Siberia. It has a common origin with other Indo-European peoples in the steppes of Eastern Europe. However, according to the latest archaeological research and molecular anthropology research, the original Indo-Europeans are speculated to have originated from the Eastern European steppes. Through archaeological genetic reconstruction, the appearance of the original Indo-Europeans was light-skinned, blonde, and light-colored eyes. 15th. Rigveda. Source: ChatGPT. The Rigveda is one of the oldest classical texts in India and one of the oldest religious texts in the world. It is one of the most important Hindu scriptures, recording the religious beliefs, rituals, and life customs of ancient India. The Rig Veda is believed to have originated between about 1500 BC and 1200 BC and is a cultural product of the Aryan society of the ancient Indian subcontinent. As one of the oldest religious documents in the world, the Rig Veda records the religious beliefs, cultural practices, and social structure of the ancient Indian people, and has had a profound impact on later Indian culture and religious traditions. Ancient Sanskrit is the language of the Rig Veda and is of great significance to the study of Sanskrit language and grammar. Many Sanskrit scholars study the Rig Veda to understand the grammar and vocabulary of ancient Sanskrit. The Rig Veda laid the foundation for the formation and development of Hinduism, and the gods and rituals described in its poems became an important part of Hindu mythology and teachings in later generations. In general, the Rig Veda, as one of the oldest and most important religious documents in India, has had a profound impact on the development of ancient Indian culture and Hinduism. It is not only an important classic of Hinduism, but also one of the precious world cultural heritages. It is of great significance for understanding the development of ancient Indian civilization and Hinduism. Source: Wikipedia. Rig Veda, Roman, Veda, Sanskrit consists of two roots, si, singing, and Veda, knowledge. Its full name is Rig Veda Collection, and its Chinese translation is Singing Ming. Treatise is the earliest volume in the Vedas. It was written between the 16th and 11th centuries BC. It is the oldest book in the Indo-European language, except for Western documents. Unlike the ancient documents of other civilizations, it was preserved orally. Rigveda is divided into 10 volumes and contains 1028 poems, 11 of which are considered appendices. The shortest poem has only 3 stanzas, and the longest poem has 58 stanzas. It is the arrival of the Aryans on both sides of the Indus River. God's Hymn. The Aryans divided the universe into 3 realms, heaven, space, and earth. Each realm has 11 gods, and there are 33 gods in the 3 realms. The gods in the heaven include Dios, Varuna, Surya, Usha, and Ra. Dili. The gods of the air world include Indra, Abanapata, and Rudra. The gods of the earth world include Prithvi, Agni, and Soma. These deep and rich spiritual thinking systems reflect the Aryan people's admiration and yearning for the wise and enlightening people. Indra was the leader of the ancient Indian tribe. He was brave and good at war. He conquered India in 2000 BC. The poets of the ancient Indians composed more than 200 divine songs to praise him. The demons recorded in the Rig Veda were inferred by later generations to be slaves in ancient India. The Aryans who came from the west used Varna to distinguish their classes, and finally changed it to caste. In the last volume of the Vedas, 4 castes appeared: Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra. In addition to poems praising gods, Rigveda also has secular poems, including some divine songs with content about weddings, love, witchcraft, and even gambling, such as the preface to the secular divine songs in Chapter 6 Confessions of a Gambler. It describes the fascination of throwing dice, a believer kneeling in repentance before the idol after losing the bet, wailing miserably, and the sorrow of the mother and wife at home. These works reflect the living customs of the people during the Vedic period. 16th. Sakya. Source: ChatGPT. Sakyamuni usually refers to the family of the rulers of Kapilavastu in ancient India, that is, the family of Buddha, Sakyamuni. The birthplace of Buddha is located in present-day Nepal and was part of the ancient Indian state of Kapilavastu. The history and culture of the Sakya people played an important role in the development of Buddhism and the formation of Indian culture. Their influence continues to this day and is regarded as an important part of the history of world civilization. Source: Wikipedia. Sakyamuni, Roman, Kaya, Balinese, Skya, Saka or Sakya, is the name of a family in ancient India. The literal meaning of Sakyamuni is power or power. The Sakyamuni tribe mainly appears in Buddhist literature records. The Buddha Sakyamuni is a member of the Sakyamuni tribe. The Sakyamuni tribe participated in the distribution of the relics of the 8 kings after the death of the Buddha. Modern academic circles generally believe that the Sakya tribe appeared in about 1000 BC. They were originally a small tribe that lived in eastern India, close to present-day Nepal. Between the 6th and 5th centuries BC, the Sakya tribe formed their own tribe. A small city-state republic, Kaya-Garjya, an oligarchic political system, ruled by a parliament and its elected king. Its capital was located in Kapilavastu, attached to the Kosala kingdom. Kapilavastu was destroyed by King Vairuri during the lifetime of the Buddha. In addition, some modern war goldsmiths claim to be of the Sakyamuni clan because they were given the surname by Sakyamuni. Another theory is that the nomadic people in northern Asia were called Scythians by ancient Persia and ancient Greece. The Sakya tribe was one of their branches, also known as the Sakas. They were originally distributed north of the Caspian Sea and the Aral Sea in 7 BC. In the 19th century, the Sakya tribe moved westward due to wars. The Sakya tribe in the east fled to Tibet and became the Yuezhi tribe. The Sakya tribe in the west moved south along the east side of the Aral Sea. Some of the Japanese tribes who worshipped the sun god migrated to the Ganges River in the 6th century BC. To the east of the upper reaches, they finally settled in the upper reaches of the Labutty River, where Sakyamuni was born. 17th. Kapilavastu. Source, ChatGPT. Kapilavastu is an ancient country on the ancient Indian subcontinent, located in present-day Nepal. It is the birthplace of Buddha, Sakyamuni. The king of Kapilavastu was named King Suddhodana, and he was the father of Buddha, Sakyamuni. The Buddha's mother was Queen Maya, who gave birth to the Buddha under a mango tree near Rambanai in Kapilavastu. The history and culture of Kapilavastu played an important role in the development of Buddhism and the formation of Indian culture. Its influence continues to this day and is regarded as an important part of the history of world civilization. Source, Wikipedia. Kapilavastu, also translated as Jabalavastu, records of the western regions of the Tang dynasty, Kapilavastu, Kapilavastu, Faxian biography, Kapilavastu Luo, Kapili, etc. mean Miadeshan or Huangta's residence, Kangcheng, Huangchikeng, etc. Kapilavastu is named after a Vedic saint. It was the capital of the ancient Sakyamuni tribe and the hometown of Sakyamuni. It is located at the southern foot of the snowy mountains, at the junction of Nepal and India. Kapilavastu is where Siddhartha Gautama lived for 29 years. The city may be located in Tilorakot, Dholaghwe in southern Nepal today, and some scholars believe it is located in Bhaipruva in northern India. Nepali and Indian scholars each claim that the city is located within their own countries, and there is no consensus on its location in the academic community. 18th. Siddhartha Gautama. Source, ChatGPT. Siddhartha Gautama is the original name of Gautama Buddha, the founder of Buddhism. Before becoming the Buddha, he was a prince of Kapilavastu in northern India. He was born in Lumbanai in the 6th century BC, a lowland area in present-day Nepal. Siddhartha Gautama is a central figure in Buddhist teachings. His life story and teachings have had a profound impact on the development of Buddhism. Source, Wikipedia. Sakyamuni, whose real name is Siddhartha Gautama, Sanskrit, Siddhartha Gautama, 623/563/480 BC, 543/483/400 BC, was a thinker, educator and religious figure in ancient South Asia. Writer, philosopher, Brahmanical reformer and founder of Buddhism. Sakyamuni was born into a royal family in southern Nepal and was of the Kshatriya caste. After Buddhism was introduced to China, many believers called Sakyamuni Buddha. Buddhism believes that Sakyamuni is the most noble person in the world, and his disciples and believers often call him the world-honored one. However, Buddhists believe that Buddha is not a god or a god in a religious sense, because all Buddhas are originally from human beings and are just enlightened. Classics such as the Lotus Sutra also believe that all living beings can become Buddhas, and Zenji Agama Sutra, all the Buddhas and world-honored ones came out of the human world and did not come from heaven. Therefore, Buddhism is considered to believe in atheism. However, with the spread of Buddhist teachings eastward, it has a long history of development in China and gradually formed Han Buddhism. It was vigorously promoted by the Chinese government during the Wei, Jin, southern and northern dynasties, and everyone from the emperor to the common people generally believed in Buddhism. The northern Wei dynasty even incorporated the image of the emperor into Buddhist statues. Emperor Wu of the southern Liang dynasty even gave up the throne many times and became a monk because of his belief in Buddhism. By the end of the Wei, Jin, southern and northern dynasties, due to the integration of Chinese Buddhism and folk beliefs, Buddhist saints had basically been deified. The Buddha is also called the Tathagata. In the Buddhist scriptures, he is recognized as the Buddha who teaches and enlightens our world, so he is called my Buddha. He is also respectfully called the Master Buddha. Starting from the Ming dynasty, the Han people respectfully called Sakyamuni the Tathagata Buddha or the Tathagata Buddha. In the Qing dynasty, the Manchus call Sakyamuni Buddha. 19th. Mahayana Buddhism. Source, ChatGPT. Mahayana Buddhism is a major school of Buddhism, also known as Mahayana or Mahabharata. It is one of the major branches of Buddhism, opposite to Theravada Buddhism, Sravaka Buddhism. Mahayana Buddhism emphasizes the spirit of great compassion to save all sentient beings, the practice of Bodhisattva path and the understanding of emptiness, which has had a profound impact on Buddhist philosophy, practice, and culture. Its core teachings and classic documents provide practical guidance and spiritual enlightenment for believers, have a huge impact on believers around the world, and leave a profound mark in the fields of culture, philosophy, and art. In the development process of Buddhism, the emergence of Mahayana Buddhism has profoundly expanded the connotation of Buddhism, proposed a wider range of liberation paths and practice methods, and greatly enriched the theoretical system and practical methods of Buddhism. Source, Wikipedia. The Mahayana of Mahayana Buddhism, Sanskrit transliteration Mahayana, Mahayan, etc., refers to the Bodhisattva vehicle practiced with the goal of becoming a Buddha. Because the Bodhisattva becomes a Buddha and saves countless sentient beings, it is called the Mahayana, although Bodhisattva practice appears in various sects of Buddhism, but Mahayana Buddhism particularly focuses on and respects Bodhisattva practice, thus developing its doctrinal system and unique views on emptiness, and does not regard becoming a Buddha as the direction of practice. Vehicle and Pratyeka vehicle are called Hinayana. In Mahayana Buddhism, the Buddhist sect that accepts Tantra as the main content of practice is called Vajrayana, which can be regarded as a branch of Mahayana Buddhism, because Vajrayana also aims at becoming a Buddha, but there are other teachings in Vajrayana. A secret practice method that is different from the general teaching content and stance of the Bodhisattva vehicle. The main inheritors of Mahayana Buddhism, if they are named according to the different transmission routes of Buddhism in the history of Buddhism, belong to the Northern Buddhism. If this transmission route is further subdivided, the Han Buddhism spreads in mainland China, Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, Japan, Korean Peninsula, Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, and other places. As for the secret Mahayana Buddhist teachings formed in the late period of the history of Buddhist thought in India, they were introduced to Tibet, Mongolia, and parts of Russia and became the main element of Tibetan Buddhism. Mahayana Buddhism, according to its original meaning, refers to the Buddhism of the Bodhisattva vehicle. However, generally speaking, because the Northern Buddhist system places great emphasis on the Mahayana, Bodhisattva vehicle, teachings, the relevant sutras and treatises in the Northern Buddhist system are much more than the Sravakayana teachings. Therefore, it is generally called Mahayana Buddhism, along with the concepts of Northern Buddhism almost overlap, although there are of course a small number of Taoist teachings on liberation in the content of Northern Buddhism, but if the concept is strictly defined, it is more accurate to call Northern Mahayana Buddhism because there are also Southern Buddhist systems. There are parts of Bodhisattva Taoism, and Bodhisattva vehicle is not exclusively practiced by various sects within Northern Buddhism. However, generally speaking, the Theravada system of Buddhism places great emphasis on the liberating Taoist teachings of the Sravakayana, with the main goal of becoming an arhat. The contents of the sutra collection and commentary collection are far less than those of the Northern Buddhist system. In addition, the Bodhisattva vehicle in the Northern tradition of Buddhism and the Bodhisattva vehicle in the Southern tradition of Buddhism have different views on certain points of view. See the entry on the Bodhisattva path of the Southern tradition. 20th. Theravada Buddhism. Source, ChatGPT. Theravada Buddhism, also known as Ravakayana, is a major school of Buddhism, the opposite of Mahayana Buddhism. Theravada Buddhism provides a set of strict precepts and practice methods, which guide and inspire personal practice. Theravada Buddhism plays an important role in the history of Buddhism. Its system of precepts and doctrines provides an important foundation for the development and inheritance of Buddhism in later generations. Source, Wikipedia. Hinayana, Roman, Hnana, is the collective name used for the Sravakayana and Pratyeka vehicles in the three vehicle teachings previously divided by Mahayana Buddhism. The main reason is that these two vehicles are not like the Bodhisattva vehicle. Buddha is the goal of practice, so the Sravakayana and Pakska Buddha vehicles, which do not take the Bodhisattva path but the path of liberation as the path of practice, are regarded by them as low and humble, meaning Hune, practice methods and means of transportation, vehicle, in the meaning of. Early religious scholars from European and American countries used the term Theravada Buddhism to refer to early Buddhism. 21th. Master Xuanzang. Source, ChatGPT. Xuanzang, 602-664, whose full name is Master Xuanzang and whose common name is Chen Yi, was a famous Buddhist monk, scripture translator and scholar in the Tang dynasty of China. He is one of the most famous Buddhist missionaries in Chinese history. He is famous for his journey to the West to obtain Buddhist scriptures, spread Buddhism and translate a large number of Buddhist scriptures. Xuanzang's outstanding contribution to the spread of Buddhism not only had a profound impact on Chinese Buddhism, but also promoted cultural exchanges between China and India, and enhanced the understanding and friendship between the two peoples. With his outstanding knowledge, firm belief, and unremitting efforts, Master Xuanzang has made outstanding contributions to the development and spread of Chinese Buddhism. He is respected by the world as a great missionary and translator in the history of Buddhism. Source, Wikipedia. Xuanzang, April 6, 602, March 7, 664, with the common surname of Chen and given name of Yi, was born in Fengxi County, Luozhu, now the south of Yunxi District, Luoyang City, Henan Province. He studied under the ordination of Nalanda Temple in India. Master Xian is the Tripitaka master of the Tang dynasty, the founder of the Consciousness Way sect of Chinese Buddhism, one of the four great translators in China, and one of the greatest translators of Chinese Buddhism. The records of the western regions of the Tang dynasty, which was dictated by him and written by his disciple Baiyunji, is an important document for studying the history of ancient India. 22th. Shah Jahan. Source, Wikipedia. Shah Jahan, January 5, 1592 to January 22, 1666, or Shah Jahan, was the emperor of the Mughal Empire that ruled the Indian subcontinent. He died in 1628, reigned until 1658. Shah Jahan means ruler of the world in Persian. During his reign, Shah Jahan built the world-famous Taj Mahal for his favorite wife, the late Queen Jima Banu. He was later placed under house arrest in his later years. 23th. Taj Mahal. Source: ChatGPT. The Taj Mahal is one of the most famous buildings in the world. It is a white marble building located in the center of Agra, a city in northern India. It is known as the Crown of India and the symbol of love. Famous for its beautiful architecture, romantic backstory, and symbolism, the Taj Mahal has become one of the cultural treasures of India and the world, as well as one of the world's most popular tourist attractions. Source: Wikipedia. The Taj Mahal, Taj Mahl, Roman, Taj Mahal, is a white marble mausoleum located in Agra, Uttar Pradesh, India. It is one of the most famous monuments in India. It is a mausoleum built by Shah Jahan, the fifth-generation emperor of the Mughal dynasty, in memory of his second wife, the late Queen Jima Banu, and he was buried here together after his death. Although the white marble domed mausoleum is the most familiar part of the Taj Mahal, the entire Taj Mahal is a complex complex with multiple buildings, including gates, courtyards, mosques, etc., covering an area of 17 hectares. The Taj Mahal is widely considered the architecture of Indian Muslim culture. Its design combines the styles of Indian architecture and Persian architecture and is considered the most exquisite example of Mughal architecture. Construction of the Taj Mahal began around 1632 and was completed around 1653, using thousands of craftsmen and costing a lot of money. The design and construction of the Taj Mahal was entrusted to a team of architects, directed by Shah Jahan, including Mir Abd ul-Karim, Makramat Khan and Ustad Ahmed Lahori. Among them, the Persian architect Lahori is generally regarded as the chief designer. In 1983, UNESCO listed the Taj Mahal as a World Heritage Site, calling it a treasure of Indian Muslim art and one of the World Heritage masterpieces that amazes the world. 24th. India does not allow foreign investment. Source: ChatGPT. India does have some policies and regulations that restrict foreign direct investment, but it has also opened up some industries to allow foreign investors to enter. India has implemented policies restricting foreign direct investment in some sensitive areas, such as defense, media, aviation, insurance, multi-brand retail, etc. The Indian government has set restrictions or requirements on foreign investment in specific industries, such as banking, insurance, retail, electricity, etc., to protect domestic enterprises and markets. For certain sectors, such as mining, agriculture, etc., the Indian government has imposed strict foreign direct investment restrictions. Although India imposes some restrictions on foreign direct investment, there are some industries that are open to foreign investors, including but not limited to 1. Information technology, IT, 2. Manufacturing 3. Telecommunications 4. Energy 5. Real estate 6. Financial services, etc. Although there are some restrictions and policy challenges on foreign direct investment in India, the Indian government is also taking steps to attract more foreign direct investment to promote economic development and increase employment opportunities. Source: Economic Daily. Taking advantage of niches such as demographic dividend and policy support, India has embraced the wave of Desinochem. Foreign investors have been vigorously promoting the trend of abandoning China and transferring to India and has become a leader in emerging stock markets. In 2001, Jim O'Neill coined the term BRIC for the BRIC countries. At that time, he predicted that by 2050, Brazil, Russia, India and China would become emerging countries with considerable market potential due to their huge demographic dividend and astonishing economic growth rate. Economy. Among them, China and India attracted the most market attention. At that time, some economists predicted that China would replace the United States as the global leader, and India would become the third largest economy in the world within 30 years. Therefore, there was the new word Chindia, China and India, was developed and coined by Indian politician Jairam Ramesh in 2005. However, with the start of the Sino-US trade war in 2018 and the escalation of political conflicts, and the outbreak of the global COVID-19 epidemic in 2020, investment in China has been filled with high uncertainties, making the world factory that was once highly dependent on the global supply chain China, known as China, has begun to see a wave of foreign investment withdrawing. The global center of gravity is gradually shifting away from China. In addition, the previous advantage of being the most populous country will also change hands in 2023. The stage belonging to China is gradually losing its luster. Instead, this year's ranking will be India has become the world's most populous country and has one of the fastest growing economies among the world's major economies. According to the latest statistics and forecasts from the United Nations, India's population reached 1.428 billion in April this year, officially becoming the world's most populous country. It is estimated that the population will reach 1.7 billion in 2064. The continued growth of population is of great social and economic significance to India because China and the United States, whose populations are second only to India, are entering the aging stage, while India's population structure is very young in comparison. As of April 2023, people over 65 years old account for only 7% of the total population, while the working population is as high as 1.1 billion, accounting for more than 75% of the total population. With a rich young demographic dividend and a huge domestic consumer market, India is not afraid of the global economic downturn. GDP is expected to maintain a high growth of more than 6% in fiscal year 2023 and fiscal year 2024. India's fiscal year is from April to the following year, until March. In addition, the conditions for China's economic rise in the past, abundant labor force, low wages, and emphasis on cultivating scientific and technological talents are also present in India. This makes India the most vocal in becoming the next world factory after China. The growth and potential of the future market cannot be underestimated. Watch for. To become a new world factory, the expansion of infrastructure is imperative. In the past, about half of India's infrastructure plans were criticized for delays and low efficiency. However, since Indian Prime Minister Modi, who attaches great importance to economic privatization and liberalization, announced in 2014 since taking office in 2006, infrastructure construction has begun to make breakthrough progress. During Modi's tenure, the total mileage of highways across India expanded by 45%, the number of airports doubled, the total mileage of rural roads increased by 85%, the installed capacity of power plants increased by 66%, and the frequency of power outages was significantly reduced. The fiscal year 2023 budget announced in February this year also continues to focus on capital expenditures for infrastructure. Total capital expenditures are expected to increase by 33% to 10 trillion rupees, approximately $122.29 billion. At the same time, the government also encourages private enterprises investment, and a low tax of only 15% on manufacturing. Under Modi's active reforms, India's domestic economy and production activities have performed strongly. The Managers Purchasing Index, PMI, has maintained steady expansion for more than 2 years. At the same time, Modi has also relaxed foreign direct investment policies and shouted Made in India, Make in India, slogan, offering high incentives and discounts, continues to attract foreign investment to set up production lines and bases in India. In the past 8 years, India's electronics manufacturing industry has grown rapidly with a compound annual growth rate of up to 17%, and is replacing China as the world's electronics manufacturing industry. Manufacturing Center. The rapidly rising India is demonstrating strong economic resilience and vitality, and has also attracted the attention of global investors. Since the start of the Sino-US trade war, the market's investment preferences have changed and no longer chase China. According to Morningstar statistics, in the past 3 years, the average proportion of global funds holding the Chinese stock market has dropped from the previous peak of 35% to about 25%, while the proportion of India has increased from 8.5% to 13.4%. During the same period, India's Sensex index also continued to set new highs. The giant Indian elephant, which has been sleeping for a long time in the past, does not move at all, but its movement is startling. Thanks to the convergence of demographic dividend policy support and influx of foreign capital, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, predicts that India's economic size will surpass Germany in 2027 and Japan in 2029, becoming the world's third largest economy. Today, India has become incredible. It has begun to be favored by global investors and has replaced China as the new investment favorite in emerging markets. It is recommended that investors can now wait for the opportunity to buy active Indian stock funds to welcome India's golden decade of market conditions. 25th. Disintegration of the Soviet Union. Source, ChatGPT. The collapse of the Soviet Union was a historically significant event at the end of the 20th century, marking the end of one of the largest socialist countries in the world. It changed the world's geopolitical structure and international relations, prompting the former Soviet republics to embark on different development paths. Source, Wikipedia. The disintegration of the Soviet Union, Roman, Raspad SSSR, occurred on December 25, 1991, with the resignation of the only Soviet president Mikhail Gorbachev, and the resolution of the Supreme Soviet of the Soviet Union the next day, December 26, 1991. The Soviet Union ceased to exist as the final node, marking the formal disintegration of the Soviet Union as a sovereign state 69 years after its founding. The original 12 Soviet republics except the 3 Baltic countries have since legally acquired the status of sovereign states. September 6, 1991, the State Council of the Soviet Union recognized the independence of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, allowing the 3 Baltic countries to legally restore the status of sovereign states they originally enjoyed during the interwar period. The disintegration of the Soviet Union represented the end of the Cold War and the bipolar pattern that lasted for nearly half a century since the end of World War II. It also caused the collapse of the Yalta system formed at the Yalta Conference. Many European sovereign countries that were originally controlled by the Soviet Union after the collapse of the Soviet Union, it gained real diplomatic autonomy. The United States also became the only superpower in the world after the collapse of the Soviet Union. 26th. The Gulf War. Source: ChatGPT. The Gulf War was a military conflict that broke out between 1990 and 1991, mainly between Iraq and Kuwait. It was also called the Kuwait Liberation War. The Gulf War was a military operation with major international impact. It ended Iraq's aggression against Kuwait, but it also led to long-term political and economic turmoil in Iraq and the entire Gulf region. Source: Wikipedia. The Persian Gulf War, also known as the First Persian Gulf War, refers to a local war that occurred between August 2, 1990 and February 28, 1991, between a coalition of 35 countries led by the United States and Iraq. The early troop gathering period was codenamed Operation Desert Shield, English, August 2, 1990 January 17, 1991, and the combat phase was codenamed Operation Desert Storm, English, January 17, 1991 January 17, 1991. February 28, 1991. On August 2, 1990, the Iraqi army invaded Kuwait, overthrew the Kuwaiti government, and announced the return of Kuwait and the unification of Greater Iraq. The multinational force headed by the United States officially launched military operations against the Iraqi army in Kuwait and Iraq on January 17, 1991, after obtaining authorization from the United Nations and being fully prepared. The main battles included 42 days of airstrikes in southern Iraq, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia. A ceasefire after a 100-hour land war unfolded on the Uzbek-Arab border. The multinational force achieved a decisive victory at a slight cost and severely damaged the Iraqi army. Iraq finally accepted UN Security Council Resolution 660 and withdrew its troops from Kuwait. This war was the first local regional war that the U.S. military took the lead in since the Vietnam War, and it was also the first war between United Nations member states. During the war, the U.S. military put a large number of high-tech weapons into actual combat for the first time. In particular, the Air Force used various guided bombs to attack from aircraft carriers, demonstrating overwhelming air and electronic superiority. However, the Iraqi army, which had rich practical experience in the Iran-Iraq War, completely overwhelmed. The new type of modern warfare was broadcast live on television through artificial satellites for the first time, leaving a deep impression on the world. Although the U.S. military's military presence in the region and internationally has been greatly strengthened, from a large historical perspective, although the political crisis in the Middle East that lasted for several months was surprisingly successful, it only achieved the small goal of getting the enemy to evacuate Kuwait. The entire territory of Iraq was still maintained stable by the Iraqi forces, and the scale did not reach the level of a major incident. Therefore, it was not possible to eradicate the Hussein regime in one fell swoop. However, through the Gulf War, the United States further strengthened its military and political cooperation with countries in the Persian Gulf region. Subsequently, the U.S. military used strong sanctions and more than 10 years of military deployment to comprehensively deal with Iraq, paving the way for the Second Persian Gulf War that would last for nearly 9 years and be full of controversy. 27th. Indian nuclear test. Source: Straits Review. India has recently conducted 5 consecutive nuclear test explosions, which has attracted worldwide attention. The Chinese Communist Party authorities have reacted strongly to this. Pakistan has immediately protested and conducted underground nuclear test explosions. Since India's relations with the CCP and Pakistan are complex and tense, the test explosion will immediately affect regional stability, and the situation in the South Asian subcontinent may be destabilized as a result. During the Cold War, India used its alliance with the Soviet Union to fight against the CCP. However, after the end of the Cold War, the CCP and Russia restored normal relations in 1991. Therefore, the possibility of India using Russia to fight against the CCP has been greatly reduced, and India can no longer play the Russian card. Fight against the CCP. India's non-alignment policy has lost its former importance. Despite this, in order to protect itself, India has to develop nuclear weapons to deal with Pakistan, a country with nuclear weapons potential, and the CCP, a nuclear power. India conducted its first nuclear test in 1974 and began to join the ranks of nuclear-armed countries. Since India's nuclear technology is still in the development stage, it has reservations about signing a non-nuclear non-proliferation treaty. At the United Nations Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Negotiation Conference held in Geneva in early July 1996, India refused to sign the draft treaty. India believed that the treaty was invalid and discriminatory because it could not ensure the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. India also has doubts about the concept of non-nuclear zones and believes that non-nuclear zones are not enough to effectively limit the proliferation of nuclear weapons and will become ineffective in times of crisis. The nuclear bombs India tested this time are nuclear fission bombs, atomic bombs, nuclear fusion bombs, hydrogen bombs, and micro-yield bombs, tactical nuclear weapons. The successful testing of these bombs means that India has the ability to deploy nuclear war-ready bombs. And why is India so busy developing nuclear weapons? Mainly because after the end of the Cold War, there are not many opportunities for global wars in the Asia-Pacific region, but regional conflicts caused by economic competition or resource plunder are inevitable. Therefore, in order to seize markets and resources, one must become a regional hegemon. The countries in the Asia-Pacific region that can meet the conditions for regional hegemony are Japan, the Communist Party of China, Russia, and India. Therefore, it is not surprising that India has embarked on the path of regional hegemony. However, if India wants to become a regional hegemon, its number one enemy is the CCP, because since the founding of the CCP and India have been in constant overt and covert conflicts, first with border disputes, then with the issue of Tibetan independence, and then with proxy wars, that is, with support from the CCP, Pakistan versus India. After India completes its nuclear test explosion, it may affect the regional balance of power and increase tensions with the CCP. The competition for regional hegemony in South Asia is in the ascendant. In addition to developing nuclear weapons, India's other attempt is to turn the Indian Ocean into India's Indian Ocean. Therefore, it is actively expanding its naval power. Because crude oil transported from the Middle East to Asia passes through the Indian Ocean, India's purpose is to control the Strait of Hormuz in the west and the Strait of Hormuz in the east. To gain maritime control in the Malacca Strait, they hope to seize regional advantages and then compete for resources and interests. 28th. Shakti. Source, ChatGPT. Shakti is the code name for a series of underground nuclear tests conducted by India in 1998. These nuclear tests, known as the Pokhran II nuclear tests, included 5 underground nuclear explosions. Shakti is one of the experimental codes. Source, Wikipedia. Shakti, Roman, Sakti, also translated as Shakti, Shakti, Shuokiti, and Sakatan, means having strength, sexual power, or giving strength, English, empowerment. In Hinduism, Shakti is the creative force of the first element of the universe. It also represents the reproductive power of the goddess and represents the kinetic force that drives the entire universe. A god and power worshipped by Hindu Shaktism, representing the activity of some goddesses, Devi, worshipped by Shaktism. Shakti is sometimes personified into something very similar to the great goddess, equated with Mahadevi. All goddesses are considered to be incarnations of Mahadevi. Some scholars suspect that the word Shakti is derived from the name of Ik, the wife of Indra, the main god of the Vedic era. Hindu Shakti sects believe that the goddess's activity, or creativity, constitutes the energy of the universe. Shakti sects believe that goddess Shakti is the origin of the universe. Including the incarnations of Parvati, Kali, Durga, Saraswati, and Lakshmi are all derived from the manifestations of goddess Shakti. Therefore, in the view of Shaktism, Shaktism is the highest existence of the universe, Brahman or the Supreme Self. But in the view of non-Shaikakist Hindus, Shaktism or goddess power is the feminine energy of the male gods who are the consorts of Devi, such as Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma, etc., representing the female of the supreme existence. Part. Goddess Shakti wields all weapons and her consort is Shiva. 29th. Countries possessing nuclear weapons. Source, ChatGPT. Countries previously thought to possess nuclear weapons include the following. USA. The United States was the first country in the world to develop and use nuclear weapons. Currently, the United States is one of the most powerful nuclear weapon states in the world, possessing a large number of nuclear weapons. Russia. Russia is the country that inherited the Soviet nuclear arsenal after the collapse of the Soviet Union and is also the country with the second largest number of nuclear weapons in the world. China. China is one of the 5 countries in the world that claims to possess nuclear weapons and one of the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. France. France is the 4th country in the world to develop and possess nuclear weapons and is also a member of NATO. UK. The UK is the 5th country in the world to develop and possess nuclear weapons and is also a member of NATO. India. India conducted a series of nuclear tests in 1998, declared it possessed nuclear weapons, and became one of the world's known nuclear weapons states. Pakistan. Pakistan conducted a series of nuclear tests in 1998, claiming to possess nuclear weapons and becoming one of the world's known nuclear weapons states. Israel, unclaimed. Although the Israeli government has never officially claimed to possess nuclear weapons, Israel is believed to possess a significant number of nuclear weapons. Source, Wikipedia. At present, a total of 8 sovereign countries in the world have successfully tested nuclear weapons. The content of the Nuclear Weapons Ban Treaty recognizes the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council as nuclear weapon-possessing states. Among them, each country has successfully obtained nuclear weapons. The order of weapons is the United States, Russia, inherited from the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, France, and China. Since the signing of the Nuclear Weapons Expansion Treaty in 1972, 3 countries that have not signed the treaty, including India, Pakistan, and North Korea, have successively launched their own nuclear weapons programs. Although North Korea formally agreed to the Nuclear Weapons Expansion Treaty in 1985, it announced its withdrawal from the agreement in 2003. Israel is also widely believed to have nuclear weapons, but the Israeli government has refused to confirm or deny this news. However, it has also indirectly revealed that it has conducted nuclear weapons tests. Countries that have been confirmed to possess nuclear weapons or are widely believed to possess nuclear weapons are sometimes referred to as the nuclear club or nuclear powers. 30th. BRICS. Source: ChatGPT. BRICS usually refers to the 4 BRIC countries, BRICS, plus South Africa. Below is the list of BRICS countries. Brazil, one of the largest economies in Latin America and one of the BRICS countries. Russia, with rich resources and a huge land area, it is one of the BRICS countries. India, with a large population and a rapidly growing economy, it is one of the BRICS countries. China, one of the most populous countries in the world, the second largest economy in the world, and one of the BRICS countries. South Africa, an African economy and one of the BRICS countries. The BRICS countries are known for their large economic size, population, and geopolitical status, and their cooperation aims to promote global economic growth and development. BRICS countries cooperate in the economic, political, and cultural fields to enhance mutually beneficial relationships and exert greater influence in international affairs. Source: Wikipedia. BRICS, referred to as BRICS, formerly known as BRIC, English, BRIC, and BRICS, English, BRICS, now refers to 10 major emerging market countries, namely Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Republic of South Africa, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. The BRICS countries account for an important share of the world's population and land area and are one of the main driving forces for world economic growth. What the countries in the organization have in common is that they have a large territory, a large population, are developing countries, and are considered to have certain or even huge development potential. Therefore, it can be said that in the foreseeable future, this organization or one or more countries in the organization will influence or even lead the global economy to a certain extent. On December 23, 2010, South Africa joined the BRICS as a full member. After the BRICS summit in 2023, the President of South Africa announced that he would invite Argentina, later withdrew his application for membership, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates to become full members of the BRICS. 31th. India economy. Source: Wikipedia. The Indian economy is one of the fastest growing emerging economies in the world and one of the top 10 economies in the world. Based on Global Purchasing Power Parity, PPP, data released by the IMF, India is the 3rd largest economy in the world. India is the world's 5th largest economy based on GDP in US dollars and has been growing at a high rate. Many experts predict that by 2050 India will become an economy second only to China and equal to the total economic size of the United States. Since the beginning of the 21st century, India's GDP has grown at an average annual rate of 6% to 7%. India's GDP growth reached 7.3% in the 2014-15 fiscal year, making it the fastest growing major economy in the world. India's economy is diversified, covering agriculture, handicrafts, textiles and services. Although 2/3 of India's population still relies directly or indirectly on agriculture for their livelihood, the service industry has become increasingly important, accounting for 55.6% of GDP and is the fastest growing sector. With information technology and a large number of educated young people who understand English, India has developed into a center for global companies to outsource back-office processes such as customer service and technical support. India has become an exporting country for software and financial technology personnel. The development potential of other industries such as manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, biotechnology, telecommunications, shipbuilding, aviation, and tourism is also huge. In 2019, India's top 10 trading partners include the United States, Germany, South Korea, Switzerland, Hong Kong, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq. In the financial year 2018-19, foreign direct investment, FDI, in India was $64.4 billion. India has concluded free trade agreements with many countries, including Japan, ASEAN, South Korea, and SAFTA. Since independence from Britain, India has pursued a socialist economic line and strictly restricted private companies, foreign trade, and foreign investment. In the late Cold War, India opened its market, implemented economic reforms, and reduced government control over trade and investment. The Indian government has privatized public institutions and opened up industries to private and foreign investment. India may become the most populous country in 2023 and is expected to have a demographic dividend in the 2030s, with huge potential. However, its per capita income is still at the level of developing countries. A huge population also makes India face a great disparity between rich and poor. India is the world's fourth largest automotive industry and one of the world's fastest growing e-commerce markets. Indian mining contributes 11% of the country's industrial GDP and 2.5% of its GDP. India is the world's second largest steel industry, the second largest coal industry, the second largest cement industry and the third largest power generation country. 32th. World GDP Ranking. Source, Finance Spark. Summarizing the top 30 countries in world GDP in 2024. 1. United States 2. China 3. Germany 4. Japan 5. India 6. United Kingdom 7. France 8. Italy 9. Brazil 10. Canada 11. Russia 12. Mexico 13. South Korea 14. Australia 15. Spain 16. Indonesia 17. Turkey 18. Netherlands 19. Saudi Arabia 20. Switzerland 21. Poland 22. Taiwan 23. Belgium 24. Argentina 25. Sweden 26. Ireland 27. Norway 28. Austria 29. Israel 30. Thailand. By 2024, although most fields have slowly returned to normal, issues such as the Russia-Ukraine war, rising oil prices, and food shortages will still cause chain reactions in the global supply chain. Therefore, it is still unknown whether global GDP will continue to grow or fall in 2024. 33th. Tertiary industry. Source, ChatGPT. The tertiary industry refers to the service industry, including various economic activities that provide services. In India, the tertiary industry plays an important role in the national economy, contributing most of the gross domestic product, GDP, and employment opportunities. India's service industry occupies an important position in the national economy and plays a key role in the growth and development of the Indian economy. With the advancement of globalization and digitalization, India's service industry will continue to play an important role and contribute to the stable growth of the economy. Source, Wikipedia. The tertiary industry, or tertiary sector of the economy, also known as the service industry, refers to the top-level industry in the production chain of a product. These industries are involved in a product, responsible for logistics, distribution, intermediary and other work in the production chain. The tertiary industry needs to contact the end customers of the product, which is the final stage from the production of the product to the supply market. The tertiary industry of a product is the final stage from production to contact with its end customers. Since each product has its own unique production chain, the tertiary industry has different meanings for different products. The tertiary industry in the production chain of a mobile phone is the logistics, wholesale, distribution, maintenance, and for a building, its tertiary industry is real estate agency. Tertiary industries need to contact the end customers of the product, which is the final stage from production to finished product, such as catering, passenger transportation, distribution, art auctions, real estate agency, which are food, transportation, commodities, art, and buildings respectively. Tertiary industries for these products. The tertiary industry accounts for more than 70% of the GDP of developed countries. In some developing countries, it accounts for about 55 to 65%. Some special examples, such as education, academic research, technology research and development, legal profession and other industries, are the third level of operational products such as textbooks, teaching tools, experimental tools and medical tools, and conceptual products such as constitutions, laws, and scientific theories. Industry. Since the production process of conceptual products is difficult to determine, industries related to conceptual products are sometimes additionally classified as the quaternary industry. 34th. Indian economic crisis. Source, Soha.com. There was a sudden flash crash in India's financial sector, and the stock market once plummeted by nearly 8%. In addition to the plunge in the stock market, India's bond and foreign exchange markets have also experienced significant fluctuations. The rupee has fallen to around 83.5, while the recent low of the Indian rupee is 83.74. In other words, the rupee is only one step away from breaking through its lows. India's 10-year government bonds instantly jumped by about 10 basis points, reaching the 7% mark, which means that India's financing costs have reached 7%. It can be said that this cost is not far behind compared to the current United States. And this series of information all illustrates one thing, that is, India's financial market is in turmoil. There have been various problems in the Indian market before. It seems that India's GDP increased by 7.8% in the first quarter. It can be said that it exceeds the economic growth rate of most countries. But India's economic growth is very unreasonable. The most important one is that India, as the world's most populous country, is now in a period of demographic dividend, but India has always had a trade deficit. In other words, the demographic dividend is not only not a driving force for the economy in India, but also has more side effects. In addition to the trade deficit, the Indian rupee has been unstable recently. The recent currency depreciation rate of emerging countries is basically around 8.5%. Even Japan, which is shorted, is around 10%, but India can reach around 15%. And now but the decline is still accelerating. Moreover, as the rupee depreciated, Adani Ports, the company of Indian tycoon Adani, once fell by 20%, and the State Bank of India fell by nearly 15%. It can be said that the Indian financial market was bloodbathed. The reason for all this, in addition to the increasing uncertainty about the Indian election, is that American capital has taken advantage of this opportunity to harvest. You must know that the market value of the Indian stock market has exceeded $4 trillion today, and when the Nikkei index surged, there were various news that funds would be transferred from Japan to India. We all know what happened later, that is, the Nikkei and Japan's exchange rates were shorted, and they also plummeted for a time. But today this scene happened again in India. Many people may say that this may be just an episode, and with the stability of the Indian election, everything will come back. But is this really the case? You must know that today the scale of India's foreign debt far exceeds India's foreign exchange reserves, and the debt of the Indian authorities alone accounts for nearly 78% of the foreign exchange reserves. At the same time, let us not forget that India has a deficit. In other words, India with all the danger signals gathered, the only advantage is the demographic dividend and everyone's expectations. But can this really be realized? What's more, will the United States really allow a second China to emerge? We all know that India's stock market has plummeted, and the Indian stock market has once exceeded a historical high. The $4 trillion stock market has become India's confidence. But you must know that India's GDP today is only about $3.7 trillion. In other words, India's stock market is more than double its GDP. It can be said without mercy that India is becoming a financial power. In comparison, our GDP is about 126 trillion, while the stock market is only about 80 trillion. From this comparison, we can see that China's economy is more about real industries, while India is working hard on the virtual economy. At the same time, we must also know that what India can best do today is its demographic dividend, but the demographic dividend needs to be liberated, but India cannot do it. It can only continue to improve, and the more it changes, the worse it gets. Now the economy is experiencing rapid development thanks to the game between China and the United States, but unexpectedly it is facing the sickle of the United States. Today we can see that the scale of US debt has exceeded $34.6 trillion and is still soaring rapidly. These are debts that need to be repaid by the United States. What's more, for the United States, China cannot harvest it, Japan also refuses to harvest it, and Germany and France in Europe are even thinking of poaching the United States. The only big economy now is India. Moreover, in order to develop, India has no threshold for capital entry and exit. Moreover, Adani has been harvested by Wall Street once before, and finally recovered gradually, and now it is coming again. It can only be said that no matter how fast India's leaks rise, they cannot be faster than the American sickle. And we often say that if the foundation is not strong, the earth will shake. And doesn't the big plunge in India this time confirm this? What's more, India faces many more problems than we imagined. Whether it is domestic economic conflicts, land, system, and other issues, they are actually the fundamental reasons that restrict India's development. The most important point is that developing countries must rely on external markets if they want to develop rapidly. We have gradually developed and expanded our manufacturing industry and cultivated our market by relying on the European and American markets. However, India is facing the anti-globalization promoted by the United States during the demographic dividend period. And this is very detrimental to India. And the most fundamental thing is that Europe, the United States and the West believe that global resources are limited. The rise of China has robbed the West of resources. Will they let an India with a population of 1.4 billion rise again? So, maybe now is India's high point. 35th. Reasons why humans like war. Source, ChatGPT. The reasons why humans like war are very complex and involve a variety of social, psychological, economic, and historical factors. Here are some of the main reasons that may cause humans to like war. Struggles for power and territory. Many wars are fought over territory, resources, or power. Nations and leaders may wish to increase their power and status by expanding territory or controlling important resources. Ideological conflict. Ideological conflicts are also one of the causes of war. Conflicts between different religions, ideologies, or political systems can lead to hostilities and wars. Economic benefit. War can bring economic benefits, especially to the arms industry and related industries. War stimulates domestic economic growth, provides jobs, and promotes technology and innovation. Nationalism and patriotism. Nationalistic and patriotic sentiments may lead people to support war. Loyalty to the country and safeguarding national interests are one of the reasons for the outbreak of many wars. Social pressure and group mentality. Social pressure and collective mentality can also drive support for war. In some cases, social pressure and collective mentality may lead to war as the only option to resolve a conflict. Military superiority and technological development. Some countries may seek to use force to achieve their political, economic, or geostrategic goals by leveraging their military superiority and technological development. Culture and tradition. In some cultures and traditions, war is viewed as an honorable act that demonstrates an individual's or a nation's courage, honor, and heroism. Tools for conflict resolution. Sometimes, people may think that war is the only means of resolving a conflict, especially when other diplomatic or political means have failed. Psychological factors. There may be certain preferences or tendencies in human psychological characteristics that make them more likely to accept war as a way to solve problems, such as aggression, competition, etc. Information control and publicity. Promoters of war may use propaganda and information control to manipulate public sentiment so that people support the war and believe it is necessary. While these factors may lead people to support or participate in war, war also brings enormous destruction and suffering, including human casualties, economic losses, social unrest, and cultural destruction. Therefore, it is crucial to strive to find a peaceful solution to conflicts and establish harmonious and stable international relations. Source: Vocus. Human communities continue to be divided and conflicted not because of witch hunts or terrorism, but because of inequalities beyond human reach, physical inequalities, differences in personal growth histories, and transpersonal histories. Each of these inequalities tells you that human beings are individuals occupying special time and space positions, rather than an absolutely single entity that can be gathered into one, so there are differences, inequalities, and conflicts. However, even though it is impossible for human beings to occupy the same time and space and not want to have the exact same mind, just like in order to make male and female friends, they must interact with everything in this world and confirm that those minds that can communicate with each other without conflict are there. It is not necessary, these minds can confirm the closeness of each other through empathy, and form their own unique values, community, and lifestyle under the surrounding and blending of these other minds. Collectivism is about defining boundaries and moral order. If collectivism develops towards transforming everyone into a homogeneous concentration of people, it will inevitably fail. Therefore, when looking at collectivism, we must look at its content and strategies and cannot generalize. Of course, at some point, human collectives will also develop towards a high degree of homogeneity. For example, artifact culture has long shaped a certain region or a specific group of practices into having clearly identifiable characteristics of the same kind. Or it may be that between some kind of collective ongoing conflicts between two or more parties, due to various reasons, a certain aspect of homogeneity has developed in the long-term shaping of history. This is also a nation, race, or clan. One of the main origins. All in all, human conflict and agglomeration are what human beings must constantly face to survive as human beings. It makes things in the human world ever-changing, but they are constantly longing for a peaceful state where the mind and the outside world stop changing, so the mind will wander. From the cruel reality and the instinct of redemption, they sublimate into an incredible civilization as a whole. Conclusion. I feel like India is always a mystery.